All right, today's headline is pretty wild. OpenAI's AI escaped its own sandbox in order to hack Hugging Face. That alone is just pretty crazy. This is a recent post because the announcement that Hugging Face got hacked back on the 16th of July was kind of well known. However, it was very vague on what AI model was the one that did it. They announced that it was fully autonomous end to end. This is the actual article itself and how it's different than typical attacks. They say this is one that differs from anything we've handled before in an important way. It was driven end to end by an autonomous AI agent system. And again, it was kind of left vague on who or what did this. Was it a third party actor? Was it a state? Like who actually conducted this hack on Hugging Face? And then just a few days ago on the 21st, OpenAI was like, yep, that was us. That was us. So this particular incident was driven by a combination of OpenAI models, including ChatGPT 5.6 and an even more capable pre-release model, all with reduced cyber refusal for evaluation purposes. So this is OpenAI saying, yep, that was us. So let's get into the headline, which is this one here. OpenAI's cyber model broke out of training and hacked essentially Hugging Face. What was crazy is it did this for the sole purpose of trying to beat essentially a benchmark called Exploit Gym. So it was trying to get a really good score, and the way it did it actually ran highly on highly isolated hardware. It was able to gain network access. So it was able to hack out of the network, go to Hugging Face, find a 0-day, and exploit them, which is pretty crazy. So let's go through first Hugging Face's post, because this is the original post I got kind of shared around the world, and then let's dive into some details on some information that OpenAI shared. So yeah, we know that it was one of the new incidents where AI essentially was able to do it end to end. The good news is there is no evidence of any tampering with public user-facing models, datasets, or spaces, which is good, because this is essentially a repo of a bunch of models, right? So if a nefarious actor did hack Hugging Face, uploaded a bunch of skewed models that had advertising or these are all models that are installed locally on people's systems or infrastructure. So infecting a model with ransomware or something like that could cause major issues. So the good news is none of them has been discovered, which is about one of the kind of positive lights here. Obviously, as a precaution, rotate your tokens. Any questions, email Hugging Face. And what I thought was really funny is that they were able to use LLMs to drive the analysis. Something which would have taken, in their own words, days, was able to be done in hours, which is pretty great. What I thought was funny about all this is that they mentioned that when they started the analysis, they actually tried to use frontier models behind commercial APIs. However, that did not work. The analysis required large volumes of real attack commands, exploit payloads, C2 artifacts, and those requests were blocked by the provider's safety guardrails. So it was pretty funny that the attackers, which did not have any guardrails, were able to exploit Hugging Face. And then when Hugging Face was like, oh no, we got to go back and figure out what happened, those same models or similar models from same providers, possibly same providers, allegedly, were like, nope, you cannot do that kind of research. So what was interesting is that they actually implemented GLM 5.2, which is an open weight model. I think this is a Chinese-based model, and they were able to do essentially all the forensic work that they needed to on their own environment locally, whereas the commercial APIs on the frontier models rejected it. So this is kind of a pseudo kind of commercial to GLM right here. I think this is not a real good look for OpenAI, and a really good look for GLM, which I thought was very interesting. So yeah, let's go look at OpenAI's actual post. This particular incident was again driven by OpenAI's model. So this was validated by them saying, hey, it was us. It was a combination of 5.6 plus a pre-release model. So it's not saying that 5.6 was the one that did it, but it was a more capable model. They went through kind of the timeline. The benchmark was running on a quote-unquote highly isolated environment with network access constraints, and it had the ability to install packages through internally hosted third-party software. And I think they're pointing the issue to the third-party software down below. And then it went through a chain of vulnerabilities across OpenAI's research environment, and then eventually Hugging Face production infrastructure to obtain test solutions directly from Hugging Face productions database. And again, this all points to the fact that they were trying to get a solution for exploit gem. And it went through extreme lengths to get that solution on a very narrow test goal. So this obviously points to the fact that they were able to kind of win at this test. And they kind of go into some details here about how the model essentially spent a large amount of time trying to get internet access, which I think is wild. So it proves the point that they cannot contain their own testing for these new models. And again, once it got access, they were able to get access to internet based off a bunch of privilege escalation and lateral movements, eventually getting internet access. This is them saying, hey, we're working with Hugging Face in close collaboration, investigation, and remediation. And here's kind of their 5 bullet point of what they're doing, right? This is the actions they're taking. Number 1, implement strict controls and infrastructure configuration at the cost of research velocity while the vulnerabilities are patched. This is pretty much saying, we'll try again. We'll try again to implement stricter controls to the infrastructure while this may cost us some speed on developing our latest model. Not reassuring. And then it says they're working with Hugging Face to forensically investigate the incident. Hugging Face already did their own investigation, but I guess OpenAI was going to work with them to do it again or do a better research or deeper research. Who knows? Very vague. We responsibly disclose and identify a 0-day vulnerability to the internal third-party software. So this is what ended up causing it to be able to laterally move and get internet access. So obviously this is the bare minimum. Found a vulnerability, share it with the vendor. We brought Hugging Face into the trusted access program, supporting their team rapidly using models capabilities to improve their defenses. Again, this is a highly controversial point. Only the cool kids have access to the latest and greatest models with little safeguards. If you're not part of that group, then you're kind of stuck to the models that are publicly released. Bringing Hugging Face into that after the fact is kind of a slap in the face to Hugging Face, and honestly is kind of weird. But it is a good measure since it is a very big target. Hugging Face, being the host of a bunch of models, is a high value target. So not a bad thing, but again, shouldn't. This whole idea that testing models on a cool kids list is actually controversial on its own. And then number 5 saying, hey, we have these safeguards. We post actually an article talking about these safeguards. However, in this scenario, these were intentionally not enabled because it was aimed to test cyber vulnerabilities. So this is kind of just saying, we know that there are some safeguards that could be enabled. We just didn't do it in this scenario because we were doing testing. Which again, all these points aren't reassuring. They're pretty much saying we need to be better. We'll try to be better. We have toggles. We did enable toggles, and we'll kind of bring in the person that got impacted into our program. So this doesn't really this release of information isn't really a good PR move for them, especially with the whole GLM being the one that did this forensic analysis, and now after the fact, OpenAI offering to help as well. And then they list this thing at the end, which I thought was pretty funny because it's kind of how you wrap up this incident. And their direct quote says, we believe advanced cyber capability models need to help security teams find weaknesses before attackers do. Great. Understand how vulnerabilities can be chained. Great. And remediate them at machine speed. Great. I think most people can agree with that. Advanced models should help before attackers do. Understand. Yep. And then remediate. Agreed. However, in this scenario, they were using a pre-release model to get a benchmark score. So by definition, it did everything, but it didn't do the last part. It didn't help remediate this at machine speed. Essentially, it was used to get a score. We're using these capabilities to continue to strengthen protections around infrastructure configuration and model evaluation environments. We'll share your finding and best practice as we learn them. So pretty much is like, hey, this is why we're doing it, and we will share when we learn. Again, not reassuring. It's like almost like they're not sorry. It's like, hey, this happened. Kind of cool that it happened. Here's what we're doing, which is very minimal. pretty much like being better about our infrastructure and bringing in some vendors, and noting that we still believe this principle, which is these cyber capable models need to do the work in order to be safer. So yeah, interesting tweets. Yusa, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. He's a Turing Award recipient. He's one of the most cited scientists. He said this incident is deeply concerning. AI agents are willing to cheat and deceive to achieve misaligned and unintended goals, which I agree. For most people, don't care about a good score on Exploit Gym, and most people want to be secure and safe, not have their production infrastructure from Hugging Face exploited in terms of a goal that was given to a machine that is behind quote-unquote isolated infrastructure. Behaviors which have been demonstrated in control tests for months now. Now, this real-world case should serve as a wake-up call, and I think that's the main key here. How much do you trust OpenAI with your data if their own isolated infrastructure for testing has been breached? The sandbox has been unable to contain the model. The continuing on the current trajectory of AI development will likely lead to an increase in concrete cases of automation cyber attacks, which is already happening, but yeah, as well as other high-risk incidents of misaligned and dangerous AI behavior. Yep, whoever has the control of the models decides what to do with the models, even in sandbox environments where apparently they're not even safe. We urgently need to take action to prevent these situations rather than attempting to clean up the damage after the fact. Yep, this is kind of the whole motto of the article. It was very much like, hey, here's what we're doing to kind of remedy this, but we shouldn't be looking at this after the fact. And one last point here, which I kind of relate with as well. If I had committed a felony computer hacking, my press release would not have been written by lawyers. Would have been written by lawyers, not marketing team. Agreed. So it seems like this press release at OpenAI, but is more of like, hey, it was us. We did it. Here's what we're doing. But it wasn't written by like a lawyer saying, here's like the actions, here's the repercussions, here's what we're doing, concrete. It was more like a marketing team. It's like, we're so good, it escaped even our infrastructure. I've had a similar experience with OpenAI where when we notified them of a North Korea state-sponsored attack abusing ChatGPT in a campaign to infiltrate software development system, the response they sent us was 2 sentences that went out of their way to avoid directly acknowledging that yes, the threat actor leveraged OpenAI's product as part of their hacking campaign, but it still short of alludes to us being correct in our assessment. So yeah, here's a bunch of more information on LinkedIn. Here's a post on X, and obviously the news headline is that OpenAI's model escaped containment, which is true. So yeah, that's the kind of headline for the day. Your data may not be safe, may not ever be safe. OpenAI is not able to contain their own AI models, and big bad scary AI is going to take over the world. That's the headline. The reality is there are some vulnerabilities that were found with the pre-release model that were able to escape its containment. Hack Hugging Face confirmed it. OpenAI raised its hand and says, yep, that was us. And it sounds like overall GLM came and saved the day when the frontier models couldn't do it. Yeah, that's the end of day 5. I'll keep you updated if there's more developments on this story. I have the full write-up on my website, and I'll link the 3 articles, the X post and the LinkedIn post below if you want to take a look. But yeah, signing out.